Ever wondered how accessible your podcast really is? Let's delve into that. Podcast accessibility isn't just a buzzword. It's a vital consideration that can significantly broaden your content's reach. Imagine your podcast can resonate with more than just its usual audience. It can connect with a whole universe of potential listeners. Consider this. Not everyone tuning in is a native English speaker or in a quiet environment. Some listeners might be in the hustle and bustle of a busy city, others might be multitasking. And then there are those who are differently abled. Your podcast can be a source of information, entertainment, inspiration for them, if only it's made more accessible. By implementing simple strategies like closed captions and transcriptions, you can break down barriers and create a more inclusive listening experience. Remember, in the world of podcasting, accessibility isn't an option. It's a responsibility. By making your podcast more accessible, you open up a whole new world of potential listeners. One of the simplest ways to increase accessibility is by integrating closed captions. This isn't just a minor tweak, it's a significant step towards inclusivity. Closed captions are crucial for the hearing impaired, opening up your podcast to a whole new audience. But it's not just for those with hearing impairments. Imagine a non-native speaker trying to grasp your content. The closed captions can be a lifeline, enabling them to follow along and better understand what's being said. It's like a bridge, connecting your words to their understanding. And the best part, many platforms and software have made adding closed captions a straightforward process. It's not rocket science. It's about being considerate and making your content more accessible. By integrating closed captions, you're not just adding words at the bottom of the screen, you're extending your reach, breaking down barriers and welcoming a more diverse audience. Closed captions can be a game changer, making your podcast more inclusive and accessible. Transcriptions, another powerful tool, take accessibility to the next level. Now, let's delve into the benefits of transcriptions. Primarily, they open up a world of possibilities for your podcast. For one, they improve your SEO, making your podcast more discoverable to a wider audience. It's like giving your podcast a megaphone in the vast digital landscape. Moreover, transcriptions allow listeners to engage with your content at their own pace. People can read, pause, and reflect on your content, providing a more tailored experience. Imagine your listeners enjoying your podcast over a cup of coffee, taking their time to digest your words. Creating transcriptions might sound like a daunting task, but fear not. There are two main ways to go about it. You can either do it manually, getting down and dirty with every word uttered, or you can use transcription services. These services can save you precious time and ensure accuracy. Transcriptions not only make your podcast more accessible, but they also enhance the overall user experience. Let's not forget about the needs of differently abled listeners. When crafting your podcast, remember to make it accessible for visually impaired listeners. Use descriptive language to paint a vivid picture of the topic at hand. This isn't just about describing physical objects or scenes, but also emotions, ideas, and abstract concepts. Try to incorporate audio cues that help to guide the listener through the content. For listeners with cognitive disabilities, we need to be mindful too. Use clear and concise language. Avoid jargon or complex terms unless absolutely necessary. If you do use them, make sure to explain them in simple terms. Maintain a consistent format for your episodes. This predictability can make the content easier to follow and understand. Inclusivity isn't just about reaching a wider audience. It's about respecting and acknowledging the diversity of our listeners. By considering differently abled listeners, we create a more inclusive podcasting world. So, we've explored various ways to make your podcast more accessible. Let's do a quick recap. Closed captions are a game changer, not only for the deaf and hard of hearing, but also for those who prefer to read along or are in a noisy environment. Transcriptions, on the other hand, can be a lifeline for those who prefer reading over listening, or for whom English may not be their first language. Now let's not forget our differently abled listeners. Simple considerations such as clear articulation, slower pace of speech, and descriptions of any visual or auditory content can make all the difference. By making these adjustments, we can ensure that our podcasts are welcoming, inclusive, and accessible to everyone. And here's the kicker. By broadening our podcast's reach, we're not only serving our audience better, but also growing our listener base. Remember, when your podcast is accessible, it's not just a win for your listeners, it's a win for you too.